This will not be a formal presentation, but it will be idea sharing that probably some of you have been thinking about already, and that I have been giving some thought to as well. So the time is a sharing, and it's having a conversation with you. And if you have any remarks to make, I think we have 20 minutes in order to get our ideas going towards the year 2000. While I have these moments to enter your thinking, I'd like you to be thinking about how naming will continue when we're no longer active. We mean the older ones here, 60 and over. How it will continue and how it will grow in the future. As this is a preliminary to all of that's going to take place in the future. As active and interested clan members of the Tlingit people, it's our opportunity to be thinking about naming in the future. And that's what the topic is. Naming toward the years 2000. Naming towards the years 2000. It's only 7 years, it'll be the year 2000. Not long. And the children that are 10 years old now will be 17. And if we think about 10 years, they'll be 20 years old. So everybody's going to be that much older. People that are valuable resources now in laying the groundwork, in doing the basic interpretation of naming and belonging and owning, will have moved aside, some of them already. So that's what moves along, and I'll tell you who I am. I'm Helen Hope Hays. I'm from the Raven Division. I'm from Sitka. I've always been from Sitka. My parents have been from Sitka. My grandparents have been from Sitka. My great-great-grandparents from Sitka. Way back as far as you can go. It really gives you tremendous roots to be in the same place for as long as anyone can remember. I belong to the Kiks.adi Clan. Our emblem is the frog. Our primary emblem is the frog. The raven is our division emblem. I come from the Point House, which stands almost as a relic in Sitka. Matthew Fred was telling me that the point was at a different location one time before the Russian occupation in Sitka. My name is interpreted by my dad and mom to mean raven, looking forward. I like that. It suits my theme today. I am the third generation. Think about yourself when I'm talking. Those of you are near my age. I'm the third generation Christianized, Westernized person. Some are the second generation. Some never moved away as dramatically as my family did. I'm monolingual. I speak English. And that was the way it was supposed to be at that time. We're not finger pointing or putting anyone down. That's the social attitude of our people at that time, due to many historic events and changes in our way of living. George and Lottie Howard were my grandparents. George came from Kake. He has relatives there still with the name Cavanaugh. So that's on my grandfather's side. He was a boat builder. He went to Sitka Industrial Training School, and there met Lottie Sloan, Kiks.adi lady, my grandmother. Her children were, that lived, George Howard Jr., David Howard, and Tilly Howard. Tilly became Tilly Hope. On my father's side, Percy Lee Hope was my grandfather. He came in the interest of mining and merchandising in the days when mining was the way to seek your fortune. He married a Kagwantan lady. Her name was Mary. She had clan sisters named Mrs. Charlie Smith Mrs. Gus Flaney from Klukwan, and Mrs. Billy Williams, significant Kwantan ladies who lived in the Sitka village. They were clan sisters. I put the year 1799 down. Sitka was the seat of change in government. I want you to think about change in history, and naming, representing change in history, and continuity, carrying on the same values. Sitka was the seat of change in government, belief and practice, and the trade business. A change especially in the part of Sitka called the cottages, or the cottage settlement. That place is very important in our history as tribal people. From the cottages came the movement, as I used to hear it called, of the Alaska Native Brotherhood. Subsequent to that, Tlingit and Haida Central Council. Subsequent to that, the IRAs, our tribal councils. Our family was not raised in the Tlingit tradition, in the Tlingit traditional social system. If anything, only on the fringe of it. We were curious, but it wasn't really shared with us in any way that was of substance and activities. Are you thinking about yourself while I'm saying this? You really have to. The thoughts I want to share at this conference and in this conversation that we're having with ourselves, conversation with yourself, because we're setting the basis for what's going to move on from here in various forms. Thoughts I want to share at this conference is tribal and clan naming in the years 2000. How was naming done? This is the basis for that, and probably many other gatherings where smaller groups get together in your own clan and your marriage into other clans. You have to get together and help one another so you have this basis down, how naming was done in your clan and how you acquired these names and it was passed on and kept alive, and how it changed. Historical events in your clan and to the tribe. Is Ann Katzeek here? Yeah. I want you, Anna, would you stand again so we remember you from yesterday? Thank you. This is Anna. Yes. She talked about naming and historical events and how they earned names. That's at the time when it was still dynamic. It had life to it. And they were continuing to name names after historical events, after significant happenings. That is the key to my further remarks. Back in the historical time of natural history, how nature was behaving, the people moved from the mainland down the several rivers in search of places to settle. Largely this can be said about most of our clans. Those places were on the coast of the Inside Passage, and you can think of your place, and the stories go of how people dealt with nature and the creatures of nature, which I call natural history, down to the Inside Passage, except for Sitka. We were on the outside. We're the outside people. We're on the ocean. They moved with keen awareness of all life around them. Grab that for yourself. They moved with keen awareness. You can't be numb if you're going to name people and remember history. Keep your mind alert about what's happening and how this affects your clan and the tribe in naming and growing, and how your clan will move along with them. Be keenly aware of these events that change us, they have influence on us. That can become a name, And I was so appreciative of Anna making those remarks, because if we're going to move along, that's how we're going to move along. And it's based on our earlier history. They were keenly aware of all life around them, natural life and other people. Not everybody were friends. They had threats and enemies and dangers too. To find the right place to settle meant life or death, sometimes very serious decisions. They communicated with nature, listening for all sounds and sights that would offer direction. We always seek direction, and with powers greater than ourselves. Still today, that's it. In the case of the Kiks.adi, the frog was there to talk to them or to sing to them, and the stories are quite a few about that. So I won't go into it here, because we're condensing our remarks. My dad translated my name this way: Raven looking forward. My daughter's installment plan. That was right, really. That's how we paid for her, a little at a time from the hospital. Where it was possible, it would be helpful and useful to translate the sound of the names to its thoughts or meaning. It's useful to me because I'm a monolingual person. I think and speak in English, and only that way. And I'm not bragging or complaining. That's just the way it was. So the translation and meaning or significance of the name is very important. My grandson in no way is going to be a Tlingit speaker as I see it. And so he has to know the meaning of it in Tlingit, in English, and have it written in Tlingit for himself. Naming was dynamic, including historical events and our sense of our crest's characteristics. Be it on the raven side, there are crests that belong to us, and on the eagle side, other crests. They have characteristics. The one that I'll mention here is the name that explains the person belonging to the killer whale, with the back of the fin being the name. It's a physical characteristic. It also can be a characteristic of nature or your family crest. It can still be dynamic. The questions here are, how can we help our children in the future with name giving? If you will think about some of the most significant historical events that could be names, we could go back to all the historic events that have taken place in southeastern Alaska that have affected us. Some I mentioned in my earliest remarks about Sitka's history in 1799 with the coming of the explorers and the influence they had on us. Tremendous in Sitka, and eventually all over southeast Alaska. One of the most important being trade. The monopoly was strong in our social system of trading with one another and with other tribes. With the coming of the explorers, that changed a lot. And you have to think about this when you're going back 100 years or 80 years. 80 years is more like it. When the name giving was going out with such abrupt changes that were taking place among us, we were confused by all the changes. And yet there was this strong sense of ownership of names and places, until we went to court with the Tlingit and Haida claims against the United States for taking Tongass National Forest and Glacier Bay National Monument. Those were the issues that we went to court about as an A&B and formed Tlingit and Haida. Now, do we have any names about that? Tremendous things happened to us. Some were inevitable. Some were very grievous. Some were hardly noticed. And others caused us great, great loss. Do we have names that we can put together so that we remember those historic events as we move along into the future? We have a logo among us that happened in the last 20 years. It's called ANCSA. That is has a powerful influence on us. How could we name somebody? There are a lot of people that want to be on the board of directors of our regional and village corporations because it's important. And we think it's powerful. Do we need names to remember those things of how it benefited us or not, or what we thought about it as we move along in history? That's our event. We went after it. Tlingit settlement is another one that deals with traditional land and our ownership and our sense of place. Our ownership of these lands, now we think they belong to Sea Alaska, for instance, historical sites and cemeteries. These places and events are our history. Somehow they should belong to the name-giving and our sense of place and ownership. I don't know how, because we're only now talking about it. We have been busy, like our Chuck Miller, we claim him in Sitka, though he has other roots. He's getting the fundamentals down of traditional naming, which are critical. They are the base names of clans and clan definitions. From there you can build on new naming, new names as we move along in history. Things won't always be the same. They'll always be changing. So once you realize that, I think that you could begin going back a little, do like what Ann Katzeek said. They earned the name. We've earned certain names, but we haven't put them down yet. We haven't named each other that yet. I certainly don't have the answers, but I know that if you sit down with each other in your clan group and begin helping each other write the names down as you remember them, languages do change, so they won't just be spelled exactly as somebody said they should be, because I don't know how long we've been having the written language in Tlingit. 15 years? 16 years? Pardon me?
100 if you count the Russians.
Yeah, but the ones that we commonly use today in Southeast Alaska in Native education, how long has that been? 30. And that's been changing right along and improving right along. So it's exciting to me to just share these things with you and hopefully you begin to do something about it. Your sense of place as a clan is going to give a new name to the place. It has traditional names. It has geographic names. It has nautical names. But you can also name. Nothing's saying you cannot name places that you feel ownership to, and that you have clan roots and a sense of belonging. That sense of belonging is more important than what's written on a chart, because for us, it's our spiritual place. If you're going to be anything tribal, it'll be because of that spiritual and that inner ownership and sense of place. That's why naming in the future is so important. So I'm hoping that my part here in presenting you what some of you are already doing and thinking about will spark each other so that we gain momentum in naming. We claim our places because of our characteristic with nature, our relationships with one another, as we weave the patterns together that continue our traditional patterns, but move on to different kind of objects and pieces, like basketry and fabric and designs and new material. So that ends my thoughts, and it's almost noon, so thank you for your attention and good luck.